Hey everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive with us. Today we are talking about something pretty interesting, New Balance.
Yeah.
Those shoes that you might associate with your dad or,
Yeah. Comfortable footwear.
Yeah, comfortable footwear. And how they've kind of made this unexpected jump to becoming a Gen Z style icon.
Uh-huh.
Which is pretty wild, like when you think about it.
Yeah, it is fascinating.
We found this awesome blog post that kind of digs into this whole phenomenon. It's called New Balance, from dad shoes to Gen Z favorite.
Yeah, that's a great title for sure, and a great way to kind of sum up this really, I think, kind of unexpected and fascinating journey.
For sure. For sure. So how did a brand that, like we said, was known for practicality and maybe not being the trendiest?
Yeah, let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
Not trendy.
Yeah.
How did they completely, reinvent their image?
Exactly. So for years, New Balance, they were synonymous with this term, dad shoes.
Right.
Particularly, their really iconic 990 series.
Yeah.
Which were designed for performance and durability.
Yeah, perfect.
For dads.
Dads, yeah.
Who prioritize comfort over fashion.
Right.
And they even became the subject of countless memes online.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I mean, the 990 was launched back in 1982, and it was all about, function over form.
Uh-huh.
But what's so remarkable is that New Balance didn't really shy away from this image.
Yeah.
They kind of leaned into it, and they transformed it into a strength.
Totally.
They took what could have been seen as a negative, and they flipped the script entirely.
So how did they pull off this huge turnaround? I mean, it's not like they just became trendy overnight.
Absolutely not. No, it was very strategic.
Huh.
A very well-executed rebranding effort that really involved a few different key elements.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, smart collaborations, savvy influencer marketing, and a real kind of calculated shift towards the streetwear scene. They really managed to capture the pulse of youth culture without kind of losing sight of their core identity.
Okay, let's break down those elements a little bit.
Sure. Yeah.
You mentioned collaborations seem to be a big part of their strategy.
Oh, absolutely. Collaborations were crucial.
Uh-huh.
And, one of the most pivotal partnerships was with Aimé Dore.
Okay.
Which is a New York City-based streetwear brand that's known for their cool and understated aesthetic.
Okay.
And together, they revived the New Balance 550.
Okay.
Which was a forgotten basketball sneaker from the 1980s.
Really?
And they turned it into an instant classic.
That's so interesting. I'm curious, why do you think they chose to bring back a basketball shoe specifically? Was that strategic?
That's a great question. I think it was a brilliant strategic decision.
Yeah.
Because at the time, the sneaker market was so saturated with running shoes, particularly, those chunky, brightly colored styles.
Yeah, yeah.
So by reviving this basketball silhouette, they tapped into this sense of nostalgia for a different era.
Okay.
And they offered this, fresh alternative to the prevailing trends.
I see.
And remember, the 550 wasn't just any basketball shoe.
Right.
It had this minimalist design.
Yeah.
And a vintage appeal that really aligned perfectly with Aimé Dore's aesthetic. So it created this, this high-low mix that became so sought after.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like they really knew what would stand out in this kind of crowded market.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just that Aimé Dore collaboration, right? They had other big names, too.
Exactly. Yeah, they had really successful collaborations with Jaden Smith, Joe Freshgoods, Bodega, and Stray Rats, who are all known for their very unique styles and influence within the streetwear community.
Yeah.
So by partnering with these very carefully selected brands and personalities, New Balance was able to really tap into existing fan bases and create this sense of exclusivity and hype around their products.
So collaborations were key, but they also really leveraged the power of celebrities and influencers.
Right.
I remember seeing 𝗵𝗄𝗄𝗏 𝗚𝗏𝗄
Oh, absolutely.
rocking some New Balances, and it felt like the whole world took notice.
Oh, yeah. Seeing celebrities like 𝗵𝗄𝗏𝗏𝗍, Jack Harlow, Bella Hadid, sporting New Balances.
Yeah.
Definitely played a huge role in kind of boosting the brand's cool factor.
Totally.
And, these weren't even necessarily paid endorsements.
Right.
It felt much more organic.
These
style icons were genuinely choosing to wear New Balances, which made them even more desirable.
Totally.
And of course, social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram were flooded with influencers incorporating New Balances into their looks.
For sure.
So that further fueled the trend.
It's amazing how a few strategically placed sneakers on the right people can really shift the entire image of a brand.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
But it seems like New Balance was doing something different compared to those giants like Nike and Adidas.
Yeah.
What would you say is like the most unique aspect of their approach?
I think what really sets New Balance apart is their emphasis on authenticity and this more kind of understated, lifestyle-focused approach.
Okay.
They didn't really get caught up in the hype machine of, you know, limited drops and artificial scarcity that really dominates the sneaker market. You know, they stayed true to their roots, emphasizing quality craftsmanship, comfort, and minimal branding.
Yeah.
Qualities that really resonated deeply with a generation that values genuineness and really rejects, you know, overt commercialism.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
It's more about that understated style and individual expression than just following the crowd.
Exactly.
So we've talked about collaborations, celebrities, influencers, and a different approach to marketing. But let's get to the heart of this deep dive. Why did Gen Z, a generation that's so hyper-aware of trends, gravitate towards New Balance? What's the deeper connection?
Yeah, what's the connection? Well, it's a few different factors, really.
Okay.
Comfort, authenticity, sustainability, all values that really resonate deeply with this generation.
Okay.
You know, we were talking about those dad shoes
and
how Gen Z has really embraced, you know, normcore and ugly fashion.
Right.
Well, New Balance's comfortable and functional designs really fit perfectly into those aesthetics.
Totally.
It's like they're not even trying to be something that they're not.
Right. It's almost like they're reclaiming those terms, turning what was once seen as a negative into something that's cool and desirable.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the aesthetics. Remember, we're talking about a generation that values authenticity above all else.
Right.
New Balance doesn't really rely on those flashy marketing campaigns or those limited edition drops to create that artificial hype.
Right.
Their approach feels very genuine and less try-hard. Yeah.
Which really aligns with Gen Z's kind of rejection of overly commercialized brands.
Okay, I can see that for sure. It's more about, you know, understated style and individual expression than following the crowd.
Precisely. And let's not forget about sustainability.
Right.
A topic that is so important to Gen Z.
Huge, yeah.
You know, New Balance has really made this conscious effort to highlight their commitment to ethical production.
Okay.
Particularly their Made in USA and UK collections, which showcase their dedication to, you know, quality craftsmanship.
That's a great point. Consumers these days are way more conscious of a brand's ethical practices and their environmental impact than ever before. And to be fair, affordability plays a role too.
Oh, for sure.
You know, those limited edition collaborations can get really pricey.
Yeah, they can.
But their core line of sneakers is still relatively accessible.
Oh, absolutely. And for a generation that's facing, you know, student loan debt and economic uncertainty, having a stylish and affordable option is a huge draw.
So, you know, we've got comfort, authenticity, sustainability, and affordability.
Yeah.
Pretty compelling combination, wouldn't you say?
Definitely seems like a winning formula.
Yeah.
But let's get specific. What New Balance models have really become those Gen Z favorites? I know you mentioned the 550 earlier.
Yeah, the 550 is definitely iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the sneaker that really kind of kickstarted this whole New Balance resurgence. It became a symbol of their really successful rebranding effort.
While the 550 is definitely cool, I've got a soft spot for those 990s.
Oh, yeah.
That retro vibe is just so appealing.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on their staying power?
Well, the 990 is a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been around for decades.
Right.
And its popularity just keeps coming back. You know, there's just something about that chunky dad shoe silhouette that feels both nostalgic and modern at the same time.
Totally.
And New Balance has been so smart about updating it with new colorways, new materials, you know, keeping it fresh and relevant.
So those dad shoes really did make a huge comeback.
They did.
But what about some of their other models? What else are you seeing Gen Z gravitate towards?
Well, the 2002 R is another really popular choice.
Okay.
It's this great blend of Y2K aesthetics and modern running technology, which is kind of the perfect combination for a generation that loves that retro style, but also wants those performance features.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, you can't forget about the 574.
Right.
That's like the timeless, versatile sneaker that goes with everything.
The 574 is like the blank canvas of sneakers.
Yes.
Ready to be styled in so many different ways.
A million different ways.
But what about those classic dad shoes? Have those made a comeback too?
Oh, absolutely. The 990 V5 and the 9060 are perfect examples of how New Balance has kind of elevated those classic silhouettes into like high fashion statements.
Interesting.
You know, they've taken what was once considered uncool and turned it into a symbol of effortless style.
It's really incredible how something once relegated to the back of the closet is now a must-have.
I know, it's amazing.
But here's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Is this New Balance craze a fleeting trend, or is it here to stay?
That is the question that a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think New Balance has done something really smart.
Okay.
They've really tapped into these trends that have staying power.
Okay.
Like the rise of 𝗁𝗏𝗄𝗃, the enduring appeal of retro aesthetics, the focus on comfort and functionality.
Yeah.
These aren't passing fads, you know, they really reflect a shift in consumer values.
Right.
And New Balance is perfectly positioned to capitalize on that.
Can you explain what 𝗁𝗏𝗃 is for those of us who might not be familiar with the term?
Sure. 𝗁𝗏𝗃 essentially refers to outdoor-inspired fashion that prioritizes practicality and functionality.
Okay.
So think, you know, technical fabrics, hiking boots, fleece jackets, pieces that are built for the outdoors but have really been adopted into mainstream fashion.
Okay.
And this trend plays perfectly into New Balance's strengths.
Yeah.
They've been making durable and comfortable shoes for decades.
So
they're like a natural fit for this aesthetic.
So it's not just luck. It's not just hype.
Right.
It's a combination of smart strategy, cultural alignment, and a product that genuinely resonates with a generation.
And let's not forget the element of surprise. I mean, who could have predicted that dad shoes would become the hottest trend in footwear?
Yeah.
That unexpectedness, that subversion of expectations is part of what makes New Balance so cool.
It's interesting how perceptions of what's cool can shift so dramatically.
Yeah.
But what do you think is driving this change? Why is there such a strong desire for authenticity and a rejection of that overt branding among Gen Z?
I think there are a few things at play here.
Right.
You know, this is a generation that grew up online. They've been constantly bombarded with advertising and carefully curated images.
Yeah.
They're incredibly savvy. And they can really spot inauthenticity from a mile away.
Yeah.
They crave something real, something with substance in a world that often feels very superficial and manufactured.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They're looking for brands that really align with their values.
Yeah.
Brands that feel genuine and relatable.
Exactly.
And New Balance seems to have struck that chord perfectly.
They've really embraced their heritage, their dad shoe roots, and turned it into a strength.
Yeah.
They haven't tried to be something that they're not.
Right.
And that authenticity is what makes them so appealing to Gen Z.
So they've managed to stay true to their core identity while simultaneously reinventing themselves for a new generation. It's a remarkable balancing act.
It is.
But what does this all mean? What can we learn from New Balance's incredible journey?
I think there's some valuable lessons here for any brand. First and foremost, embrace your heritage. Don't try to be something you're not. Yeah. Authenticity really resonates.
For sure.
Secondly, understand your audience.
Yeah.
What do they value? What are their aspirations?
Right.
And thirdly, be adaptable. You know, the world is constantly changing.
Right.
And brands really need to evolve to stay relevant.
It's like Darwin's theory of evolution, but for sneakers.
Exactly.
The brands that adapt, the brands that understand their environment, those are the ones that survive.
Those are the ones that survive. And New Balance is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
They took what some might have considered a liability, their dad shoe image, and turned it into an asset.
Yeah.
They understood the cultural shifts happening around them, and they adapted accordingly.
And the result is they've become one of the most sought-after brands in the world.
Exactly. It's pretty amazing.
It's a truly remarkable story, and it's not over yet.
It's not.
What do you think is next for New Balance? What new collaborations, what new designs, what new ways will they find to surprise us?
That's the exciting part we don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's safe to say that New Balance isn't afraid to take risks, to push boundaries, and to continue to redefine what it means to be cool.
And that's what keeps things interesting.
Exactly.
But let's not forget where this all began.
Yeah.
It started with a simple, comfortable shoe designed for dads who just wanted to walk, jog, and go about their day without any fuss.
Right.
And that, in essence, is the beauty of New Balance's story.
It is.
They took something ordinary and made it extraordinary. They reminded us that sometimes the coolest thing is just being yourself.
Well said.
Now let's shift gears for a moment. Think about you, the listener.
Okay.
Given the rise of vintage and sustainable fashion, which brands do you think might experience a similar resurgence in the future?
Ooh.
Think about brands that might have fallen out of favor but have the potential for a comeback. We'll dive into that after a quick message. All right, we are back, and I am so curious to hear, after talking about New Balance's journey, what brands came to mind for you?
Oh, yeah.
Are there any that you think could be, on the verge of a similar comeback?
Oh, it's such a fun thought experiment, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, fashion just has this way of cycling back around.
Totally.
What's old becomes new again in the blink of an eye.
For sure. We talk about how New Balance really capitalized on, the rise of 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏 and those retro aesthetics. And those trends are not going anywhere.
They're not.
So what other brands could fit into that mold?
Well, a few instantly spring to mind, Fanny.
Okay.
Like 𝗏𝗏𝗱𝗲𝗃, even 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗲.
Okay.
They've all got that in nostalgic retro feel.
Right.
That seems to really resonate with those younger generations.
𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗲 is a great one.
Yeah.
Those bucket hats were so iconic.
Iconic.
And 𝗏𝗏𝗱 with their, bold logos.
Yeah.
And that 90s sportswear aesthetic, I
Yeah.
can definitely see them making a comeback.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you? Are there any brand that you're personally keeping an eye on?
I'm really intrigued by the potential of some of those lesser-known vintage sportswear brands.
Okay.
Think LS Sergio Tacchini Diadora.
Okay.
They've got this unique blend of sport and style
Yeah.
that I think could be really appealing if they play their cards, right?
That's a really interesting point. It doesn't always have to be, the big names that make the most impactful comebacks.
Yeah.
Sometimes those hidden gems have even more potential because they can be rediscovered and reinterpreted in these fresh new ways.
Absolutely. It's all about finding those brands with, a strong heritage,
Right.
a unique aesthetic, and a story to tell.
Yeah.
They need that foundation to build upon.
And of course, they need to be in tune with those, cultural trends that we talked about.
Yeah.
Like sustainability, comfort, authenticity. Those values are really at the forefront of consumers' minds these days.
You're absolutely right. Consumers are much more discerning than ever. They want to know, where their clothes are coming from, who made them,
Right.
and what the brand stands for. It's not just about the look anymore. It's about the values behind the brand.
Well, I think we have covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We started with dad shoes.
Yeah.
And ended up exploring the cultural shifts that have propelled New Balance to the forefront of, Gen Z style.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
It's amazing.
It really goes to show the power of, reinvention, understanding your audience, and of course, never underestimating that, enduring appeal of comfort, quality, and authenticity.
Very well said.
And who knows, maybe a few years down the line, we will be having the same conversation about 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏 or 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗀𝗏.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
The future of fashion is full of surprises.
I can't wait to see what happens.
So this deep dive has sparked your curiosity about New Balance. Be sure to check out that blog post we mentioned.
Yeah.
New Balance.
Yeah.
From dad shoes to Gen Z favorite. It's a great read. It is.
And maybe it'll even inspire you to, do some digging into the history of some of your other favorite brands.
Yeah.
You never know what you might uncover.
Happy exploring.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, keep your style sensibilities sharp and stay curious.